Hello, is anybody out there? This is the A to Z podcast. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott. This is quarantine day 962. And we're here with another A to Z podcast. It's facebook.com/A to Z podcast, A to Z podcast.com. Shouts and bigger shouts than normal to Scene, to the Honeymoon Girl, to American Fireworks for helping to make this thing happen. We're not going to lecture you guys. We're not going to play doctors. We're going to talk about what's going on, and I don't know. We might get into some other fantasy world. We just talked, Dre, for 20 seconds before we press the on button, and I said I got a couple ideas, but I don't know where they go. I don't remember what you said, quite frankly, but here we are, so let's fill some time.
I really don't remember what I said either. I think you made the point of it's April 1st, which means it's April Fool's, and in the time and place that we are, is there anything that can be funny on April Fool's? Like, is there anybody out there that could possibly get a laugh out of you or make a laugh out of in these times? Like, I know that at certain radio stations, like, they had to be told, hey, no jokes this year for April Fool's. And I remember thinking to myself, you got to tell somebody that right now?
No, it is. Yeah, these are strange times, man. And what I would say, at the risk of being Dr. Jackson, is it's okay to not be okay. But, talk to someone, breathe some fresh air. All I got are sports analogies, right? I'm trying to be very clear about that, whether we're on here, we're talking to kids, or just in general conversation. And just look at this as a slump. Everybody goes through it, right? And I don't know how many of you are out there listening, but I know 50 or 100 of you personally, and I know you all had a slump buster in college, and it'll come too here in real life. That's all I got. See you next time.
I got, on one hand, I want to comment on that. On the other hand, I don't want to comment. Oh, what a word. To be the single person right now, there's got to be great at times, and it's got to be a pain in the butt at times. I saw one of these memes the other day talking about everybody over 30 without kids, and they're like, everybody made fun of us. Now you're not making fun of us anymore. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's a good point. But I will say, having kids, and it's a job, man. And it's like, I wondered the other day, because AJ just randomly was just like, so how much longer is this coronavirus going to go on? And I'm just and I looked at him and I was like, I don't know, man. it's like good question. It's going to last for a little while, but not too long. And I wanted to look at him like, wow, you sick of being around us?
Yeah. And
you can tell that they are. I mean, I said in the last podcast, it's like, why would you not be tired at 5 and 7 years old? Why would you not be tired of being around your parents? So thank God for FaceTime. They actually, and I never thought we'd be letting them do this, but they actually have FaceTime with their friends, with a couple of them at least. And I know for Jen, in her job, where she's usually, has people going out working with families or working with kids with special needs, they're using one. You and I were just talking about podcasting wise, how we've never thought about or cared about people seeing us. Like the idea of video with podcasting has been brought up to us and been talked to about us, but it's never been something very important to us, right? It's always just been kind of like, we'll talk. We wear sweatpants and T-shirts when we have to, unless we absolutely have to wear something else. Right. But I know even in my wife's business, and it's working well, because there's a lot of parents out there like, yeah, if you can get us on a YouTube channel or get us something where our kids are actually talking to somebody they know. Right now, if you can get their attention for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, that's huge, because that hour, that 45 minutes in the block of time that they have, it changes the whole day if you can find something for kids to do, because parents are figuring out how hard parenting really is right now, is what I would say, more than anything else.
So I'm going to read you this because it's funny, and it won't translate as well as it does visually, but my friend, I'm going to go ahead and say the name, Chad Bever, a longtime friend of mine. He's a teacher, and I would assume a darn good one just knowing him. I believe his wife's in education too, and they posted this on Facebook. They have a son who, from the picture, looks to be 7 or 8. Their daughter looks to be 3 or 4. And here's what they posted. After careful consideration, Bever Private School has made the unanimous decision to eliminate the March Student of the Month award. Due to surprisingly limited qualified applicants, we're holding out hope that student behavior, morale, and overall performance improve in the month of April. This says nothing about
That's
the hard work,
hilarious.
qualification, and dedication of our teachers here at Bever School. We have heard that nearby schools are making the same move in hopes for a turnaround. Godspeed to other area schools. And I thought they were speaking to and for a lot of people with that post.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not, and like Isabella's too smart for her own good, and because she was gone before this even started in Arizona, she's like, I did all the work you told me to do already. Like, it's like, yeah, good point. So last week it would have been their spring break. So last week it hit her after she talked to one of her friends. She's like, why do you guys got me doing schoolwork when it's supposed to be spring break? And I'm like, well, because you were already out of town. So the next morning we woke up and I was like, you know what? You're right. It's spring break. We'll save it till next week. I was like, I ain't fighting it. I was like, there's no sense in fighting it at this point in time. What are we achieving?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, Dre. And then just like the whole real world human element part comes in. Like, of course, schools want to educate. And of course, a lot of parents want structure and whatever, but they're also dealing with their own real life situations, right? And it's all online learning, and not everybody has internet. Not everybody has reliable internet, right? People have other things going on that at different times of when they can lock their kids in and do things. And, schools are wanting to be planning prom and graduation and baseball games, and it's not there. And I know a lot of you probably tuned in specifically for an update on the Manchester coaching search, and I don't have one. And part of the reason
how does that work right now? I'm glad you brought that up.
I gotta say, part of the reason I don't have one is because the people that I've asked said, listen, we've made no progress on it. We're immersed in this e-learning. And I think, well, if we're going to put education over football, we're screwed to start with, right? But yeah, I mean, how does it work? Eventually, you do some Zoom interviews, but with school year possibly canceled and all of this in limbo, I don't know how you do it. I really don't, and I don't envy anyone involved.
No, I don't either. That is an odd situation. I mean, everything is in these odd situations in places that we've never been before. I know that for Sports Time and Fox Sports, we're working on a way for us to do shows from our homes, TV shows, because and I think we all should know this and see this. I mean, kudos to ESPN for doing the most realistic thing they possibly could do by moving up their Jordan, the Jordan Bulls documentary. I mean, it had to be done knowing that how long we were going to all be locked down. But the scramble for programming is very interesting. And just like in that job, I mean, let's say, and look, no, neither Zach or I want to put caps on how many days we're going to be in quarantine or how many days. I think the one thing you can look at when you look at all these people way smarter than us talk about flattening the curve, I think it'd be idiotic for us to be like, yeah, we're going to be good to go, on June 1st or on May 15th. Yeah. I think it's asinine to just touch on the date. And I know it's very small in comparison to what's going on everywhere else, but you mentioned the Manchester High, football coaching job. Well, if you can't, and I don't know how it's going to go, and this is just a small example of what a lot of other people are going through. Let's say, everything is locked down till middle of June. Well, usually there's already some kind of system in place, I would think, for a high school football team to start getting underway. Yeah. This coach may coach a team and not meet a guy until August 1st. Right. I mean, there's a good chance that could be the situation. And like I said, it's not like it's the end of the world per se. But it is a part of of one of the hurdles that you have to walk over. I'm going to ask you this, and I text this kind of to you. I don't know if I texted to you or if I texted somebody else yesterday. And I'd like to think I'm a glass half full type person, and I've always tried to have been. But just seeing what's going on right now, and hopefully this virus isn't going to, and I know there's some people that feel like, when it gets warm outside and when it gets hotter, hopefully that, kills it off. Hopefully enough people have had it. And we have all these hopes. And we hope that it was kind of like SARS and things like that, it kind of dies off with the heat. And once enough people have it, so on and so forth. But this is a real question. And I don't, and it's just a question. I don't have an answer. But man, on April 1st, and this ain't an April Fool's joke, Zach, it's hard for me to think 4 or 5 months from now that the Tennessee Volunteers are going to have 100,000 people pushed into Neyland Stadium.
Yeah.
Or that you know what I mean? It's hard for me to think that on September, whenever the Browns are supposed to start, September 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th, that just 50,000 people are going to be willing to sit with each other. That's just, I don't know. It's just, that's on my mind right now.
10 minutes before you called, I was actually emailing with the American Fireworks guy. And he kind of made a joke about this is the year the Browns are finally going to get good and nobody's going to be allowed to go to the stadium.
That's how it feels, though. It really does feel that way.
One thing we have always talked about on this podcast when talking about sports is the truth is in the middle. When you're on the outside arguing about it or getting excited about it, whatever, the truth is in the middle. Well, I think right now, because so much is uncertain and it's scary to some, and I get it, and it's really scary in some areas, no doubt. I think the middle ground is bigger than ever, right, Dre? I think Kirk Herbstreit spoke out of school when he said there's not going to be any football. How would you know? But I think that's in play. I think the middle ground is so big that every wild idea that includes college football in empty stadiums, that includes a season that can only be played over a certain amount of months because it's temperature, that includes the NFL playing in Morgantown, West Virginia, or Arizona only, or those two places only, or an SEC game of the week every Wednesday night at 8:30 on CBS because it's the only thing on.
Right.
I think all those things are wild, and I think they're more in play than ever, and we don't know. And so we can do our part, right? We can trust, because all you can do that eventually the right decisions will be made with everybody's best interests in mind. We can all hope like hell that in that May-June window somewhere that there will be some return to normalcy, which will help in many, many, many regards. But yeah, I think everything is in play. And here's the qualifier. Here's where you want to make sure that you're not the doctor, right? Because every dipshit doctor on my Facebook just is so embarrassing. And when you guys do this, when you downplay this, or when it's so disrespectful to the people that are doing the work or that have had the disease already. It really is.
Right.
You're making it about you. It's just embarrassing. It's par for the course, but it's embarrassing. Every scenario, Jerry, like the NBA, we've heard Brian Windhorst toss things out. We've heard various other people, right? Vegas, Hawaii, Arkansas, Louisville, wherever it is.
Right.
Even the ones that make sense, and even the ones that include a thorough, well-thought-out protocol about keeping people away. There's so many what ifs. There's so many buts with it. Is it realistic? Will guys be away? What if you go through this and you keep guys away for 21 days and you bring them back, and the third day someone gets it? Right. There's so much to all of that we don't know. And listen, like I want to talk like sports scenarios here and take that out, but it just feels like it hangs over everything. And Roger Goodell, who already doesn't care that he's hated and all this, has said we're going to do the draft. And I really think the NFL has been a welcome distraction. But if these numbers turn, it's 3 weeks from tomorrow is the draft, and these numbers turn up and the draft goes on, it's even more tone deaf than usual, right?
Yeah.
And there's just so many things to it. And listen, like, I want to sit here and talk sports, and I want to say this is the bridge to the NBA from now on, starting on Christmas like they should. Like I've been screaming for years, right? But it feels dirty, even in this format where we're just sitting here bullshitting and hoping that a couple people listen, or actually not caring if anybody's listening. It feels a little dirty to even go there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and look, we've already skipped over baseball, where same thing. Like I just. Yeah, you want baseball to be back, but like you said, you put a 25-man, 40, 30-man roster together. You're going to have to spend 3 to 4 weeks together to get ready. You'd like to think that, and I know that other countries, and you check temperatures of people, so there's little things, but like how in America are we ready to do that and have if there is baseball, I can't see it having fans in the stadiums and I can't see traveling to certain cities right now. I just think that we're at a point in time where hopefully, because you brought up Roger Goodell and I was going to bring him up, but you hope with all these pro sports that they have common sense people that, we've always made the joke, no matter how successful you are, you have to have everybody's got to have a no man. You got to have somebody in your corner that's like, nah, man, Can't do that. Like I've said for years, LeBron's got some great people around him. He's had some great success. But he needs a no man when it comes to his hair. Just cut it off, man. You need to come on to the other side. In these situations of professional sports, I hope these professional sports leagues have a common sense guy. That look, financially, there aren't many people that aren't going to take a hit because of what's going on. And I know that the money that these professional leagues play with is way bigger than what you or I play with, or the common person listening to this podcast. But at the end of the day, because lives are at stake, you have to have a common sense man to say, yeah, sure, this is a $1 billion business or $3 billion business, but common sense says we're barking up the wrong tree if we're just going to trot people out. And I think that and trot people out and talk about how much money they're going to get, being a first round pick, and they and I don't want to put a number on it. That's the last thing I want to do. But let's say mid-April it gets as bad as people are saying it could get in cities like New York, Chicago, in the Florida area, hell, even here. Maybe not to the same extent, but it could get bad here. You really think that we can just flip on NFL Network or ESPN and talk about the NFL draft? I don't understand the big push. Like on one hand, I'm not mad at the NFL for saying, hey, we're gonna keep our schedule. But on the other hand, as the numbers of deaths and everything else keep going on, I just don't know. Is it worth it? Is it worth like why not just say, hey, look, we'll reassess, in mid-April, and maybe we'll do it in May. Like, what is the difference for the NFL if they draft on April 26th or May 26th?
Well, right, because if you don't have rookie minicamps the next weekend, it doesn't matter when, right?
Right,
and
right.
I think what they're saying is that people want this distraction, that the work has been on schedule, that the people actually doing the work, not all of us on the outside screaming or tweeting false things or all these things,
right,
have always been on this schedule to do this for this day, right? And then we can do that. But so I can nitpick that. I really can't argue with it, right? But when they come out yesterday and say, well, our schedule's going to come out just delayed.
Yeah.
That to me is arrogant. It's scary. It's rough. I mean, Dre, how are there going to be anything in New York or Seattle for a long, long time?
Right. I agree. Like, how can we send people there at this point in time?
Yeah, and so now the Raiders are out, so there's not a team. There's no longer a stadium shared by Major League Baseball and the NFL.
Well, let's pause on that.
Well, I'm saying there's no longer one, but
the Vegas stadium isn't done. Well, and they can't work on it right now.
Yeah, well,
they may have to go back to Oakland.
Yeah, well, also what I'm saying is, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Philly, at least one other, they share a parking lot, so they can't play the same. It's not the same stadium.
Oh yeah,
but they can't play.
That's right.
So I think what the NFL is just doing is saying, okay, well, we're just going to count on baseball not playing. Obviously, they're not going to have that schedule, so we're going to flex our muscle and say we're in these days. Again, we get way, way, way out of our educational grade, right?
Yeah, for sure.
In saying this, but I do think there's a possibility of either empty stadiums or most of the season being played in one or two places. I do think.
Yeah.
I mean, because here's the thing, Dre. Like, if you do have to play in empty stadiums, and this goes for college football too, what is the point of sending Texas A&M to Tennessee? Yeah. I've thought of that too, and in baseball as well. Right. And maybe this knocks down doors that we haven't looked. That maybe this changes the norm. And I know we keep hearing, but maybe the norm changes in how we see games, where we go to games, how we watch games. Because is there a distinct home field advantage in baseball? No.
Like, I'm asking.
No.
You can hit first, or you get to hit last if you're the home team. But I don't think so, because I think if baseball does come back, I think that you're going to have, because you just said you can't send anybody. Major League, and this is my opinion, and I'm not educated enough to say it from what I've seen and read. I can't see how MLB could send a team to Seattle for 3 days, or how you could send a team to New York for 4 or 5 days. I just don't. With everything that's going on there, I think the last thing that they needed to do is have anybody worried about having hotel rooms and having a baseball stadium prepared. So let's say the Yankees have to play their games I don't know. I mean, the Brian Winters, thing that he had about the NBA sounds, where you just lock everybody in a bubble in Las Vegas in a big hotel, and you basically have like summer league with the NBA. At first you kind of chuckle, and then when you realize the situation, you realize that may be the situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, do they do that in baseball and send everybody back out there?
Well, in baseball, they kind of have that structure because of spring training, but there's no guarantee you can get to those places.
Right. There's no saying in 3 months that we can all just go to Arizona.
And in basketball, okay. I mean, realistically, you could play the games in one or two arenas, but you need headquarters for the teams, right? They need to practice and all this. So, at the risk of talking in circles, and again, it feels a little dirty to say this, but I'm going to throw this out there. And this is not on paper anywhere. This is coming from my head and all this downtime I've had to this microphone and to you. Okay? So let's just say it's June 15th, right? And the NBA thinks that they can get guys together. They think they've got a setup and they've got an agreement. Because the owners want this TV money needed in some cases, right? And
needed.
So, to me, Dre, it's not realistic to just come right into the playoffs because then there's no TV money for half the league, right?
Right.
So, what if you went, okay, over a 4-week period, you got everybody back, you practiced, and you played like 7 games, okay? And they're on all times a day and every day, and you fed the TV need that way. Well, when that was over, why not put everybody, or at least like the non-14 playoff teams, in a one-and-done type tournament and let them play their way in? And so you
absolutely have to.
It's 30 and 29 play. It's a compelling game. The next day they play, and then eventually you get to your core teams. Maybe play some shortened series early. Maybe not. I don't know. But I think if you get to that point, there's no harm in playing through September, October, then do the draft, then reset, then start on Christmas. I mean, like I said, This is just – it's. And again, we don't know what anything's going to be by Christmas, by Memorial Day, by any day in between. But if you can get to that point where you can pull it off in Hawaii or in Arkansas or anywhere in between, I would love to see that format, I think, sports-wise, and that's what I'm trying to stick with. I think that would be a hell of a compelling way to do it.
Yeah, and it changes it up, and it gives us a different way to look at things. I think the competition would be better. Look, before all this happened, you and I were talking about the NBA and how, a mix-up would help them a little bit, just changing it up, whether it be a tournament. I know they had the tournament talk at one time, and everybody was kind of like, like the mid-season tournament. Why not? There's going to be, and I guess we all have to come to the conclusion, and not just sports, in our world, period, there's going to be an asterisk next to 2020, right? Yeah. Like nobody's going to look back. Yeah. If we're lucky enough to get, 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 20 or more years down the road, no one is going to look at 20. We're not going to forget what we're going through right now. So there's no problem to me in changing the traditions. The NFL can say it traditionally has a draft when then. Major League Baseball can say it traditionally does this or this, or it never had a World Series in December or Thanksgiving or November, other than Derek Jeter getting a big hit in November 1st. I mean, if there's a time to throw traditions out the window a little bit and be willing to change things up and be willing to look through a different scope, if it's not now, it's never. Right? Like, this is the time where I don't think anyone will hold. And I think that's my problem with Roger Goodell and how strongly. And look, and the one thing I've learned about Roger Goodell is that he's the mouthpiece for the owners. He doesn't go willy nilly just do whatever he wants to do and say whatever he wants to do. He has the backing of the owners of teams, and it's easier for them to pay him a ridiculous to take the brunt of all the criticism that we bring across on the NFL. Roger's he's just the guy that puts it out there, right? It's not all his decisions. It's not like Roger sits in his office in New York and is like, I know how I can piss him off.
He works for the owners. I'm glad you pointed that out because even I forget that from time to time. Yes.
Yes, and I think it's very easy for all of us to make him into a villain. For us, but this guy's he's doing what? Look, and business people are business people. And I'm not putting NFL or MLB or NBA owners in the same elk as the people that I'm going to mention. But look, these people became billionaires by being great business people and taking advantage of every situation they possibly could with their money. They aren't used to sitting around and taking big losses. Not like, hell, none of us are, right? None of us are used to taking losses. So for them, like it's hard for I would guess it's hard for an NFL owner to be told, hey man, you usually make, and I'm just throwing numbers out there. None of this is legitimate. But if a guy's used to making $85 million a year, and suddenly you tell him that the bearer of what brings that $85 million a year may not work, they're not just going to sit back on their laurels and go, okay, we'll just take this one on the chin. No, they're going to find a way to try to get as close to their $85 million as they can, no matter how crass that comes off at times.
Two things. One, this whole thing is a reminder, or should be to all of us, that no matter how king shit you are, or how great you are, or how successful you are, or how happy you are, we're all one bad turn away. It can happen to anybody, right?
Yep.
And two, you use the term crass, and we've used the term dirty, and we've used the term uncomfortable and unknown, and all of those things fit. Like, sports matter, guys, because the real world is always the real world, and this is our distraction. Like, yes, we first things first is getting everybody healthy, getting people through this, but like, we want this because it's a part of what we do. It gives you something to look forward to. Not everybody's me obsessed by it and has no outside hobbies, right? Like, we want this. And I think through this, Dre, just the power of the NFL is that all this is going on in the world. They're doing free agency. It's given some people to talk about, argue about, get excited about, get mad about.
Right.
I mean, you're looking forward to the most embarrassing franchise of decades putting out new uniforms. We're arguing online about the hats for the draft picks for this franchise. Well, nothing looks good in brown and orange, right? The Browns don't pick that. New Era does it. I don't know if that's the best they can do, but with brown and orange, you're kind of limited. I'm just saying, like, these are good things, right? It's something else. It's out there. It's a part of it. It's not a part of all of us. It's far, far, far from the biggest part to any puzzle that any of us are dealing with. But sports matter here. And like, when it gives you something to get excited about and to have fun with and to invest your time or energy or money or all of the above you're caring into, like, we need this stuff. And these are fine discussions, because otherwise we could bunker up and go doomsday, right?
Right. I mean, let's go to the funnier side of things. And like, I can't wait till I get back to just caring about sports and me actually caring on Twitter about the brownie elf. Yeah. But
right.
I mean, I barely glanced at it. Like, I feel weird. I feel awkward, because those are things I'd usually have an opinion on. And right now at this moment, I have zero opinion. I can care less. It is what it is. If you're a big Browns fan, you wear it. If you're not, you don't. I'm so sick. Like, and like, I know who I am, and I know that I'll be Mr. Petty soon enough. But my petty level is just not there right now, Zach. Like, I could give a rat's ass about a brownie. Like, I know it looks stupid. I know it's a function of who the Browns are and what they are. Should they use it? Should they not use it? It's like, what's your favorite pizza? Some people like pepperoni. Some people like cheese. Some people like the brownie. God bless them. It does nothing for me. It's an era that's gone. But, man, to go on Twitter yesterday and to see people going back and forth and saying it's got blackface and on and on and on and on, I'm like,
no, somebody did not really say that.
I saw someone say it. How did you make the brownie blackface? And I got a chuckle, and I did get a chuckle out of it. I'll admit, it did get me to chuckle. But at the same time, I thought to myself, I was like, who gives a damn? I have a couple, and I said this in a couple other podcasts. Like, I am so frustrated. And look, I like shoes. I've got a couple different companies that I get shoes from or whatever else. And if I get another email from Nike or a couple other stories about, we got this deal or this deal, and I'm thinking, I got 3 pairs of brand new shoes that I don't know when the hell I'm ever going to wear them again. My closet has never been so clean and so good in my entire life, because I wear nothing but sweatpants. I don't even put tennis shoes on. Like, I don't even put any shoes on anymore. I wear flip-flops every day. So I don't care about that email about 30% off on the new Nike Air Maxes. I ain't buying them. I don't know when I'm living home. Like, I don't care about a brownie elf hat, because I ain't putting no hat on going anywhere.
Yeah. Mindy's been all over me about getting a new pair of shoes, right? And before this happened, 4 weeks ago, I was like, well, listen, why would I do it now in the spring when everything's going to be a muddy mess? Like, I promise you, by May, June, I'll get a new pair of shoes, right? I said
right.
nice. I meant nice pair of outlet store shoes.
Yeah.
Right? But we've been walking almost every day. You get out and just get the fresh air and get away from this. And every day she's like, what about these shoes? And I'm like, what? Like, how in the world could you be concerned about it? And she's not. It's nitpicking. It's cabin fever coming through, right? But like,
right.
Like, I'm totally with you on that. And as I thought this morning when I knew we were gonna record, like I honestly wrestled. Like, do I even want to go there with my thoughts on these things? Like, going forward, like this, they should move the Kentucky Derby back because they should try to capitalize on that summer window where we need things on TV. I mean, we have long talked on this podcast about the shift in sports and how it's not only about the TV money, which everyone knows, but it's about now there's so many digital streaming companies. Now there's legal betting in half the states or whatever it is. Now there's all of these things that you can do and you need to do to make your product stand out. The MAC was ahead of it 15 years ago with what they did with Late Night Football, right? So, like, I think this could be impetus for change. I would love to see the NBA start on Christmas and play into late July because I think then more people would pay attention to it. Who cares about basketball on October 27th? I don't know that anyone does.
I don't.
And so now, who cares about basketball? Like, I think even the hardcores like me have started to soften on the NCAA tournaments here and gone. It's not coming back, right?
No.
And there are more important things in the world, but I'm fine having these discussions because we have to just think we will get back to normal. And sports, this shit may change sports forever. If there's not a college football season, Dre, I'm not sure some programs will ever recover.
Right. I feel there's pro teams like that too.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. There's professional teams that if they don't have if the money doesn't come in, whether it's the TV money, whether it's revenue, they're going to go away. And I think that's the one eye-opening thing that I've taken from this in the first 2-3 weeks is that I've talked to my wife about this in her business. And I remember saying to her originally, I was like, hey, and I just used an example. I was like, hey, Burger King and McDonald's is going to lose millions of dollars in this situation. So I'm like, as a business owner, I go, you got to find your pathway and realize that there ain't many companies that are going to win, and however long this takes. And I said that 2.5 weeks ago, not knowing anything of where we're going. So it was almost my way of being like, hey, let's not get caught with our, caught blind. It's coming. It's going to be tough for everyone. And I do have that concern. And I know that you hear this all over, but if there are restaurants and there are local places that you really love and care about, try to find a way to spend some money there. I'll admit, my family has been a little bit, we were just concerned, and we've been home now we've been home for almost 3 weeks. But I was a little concerned just knowing, I guess I'll admit, when you know the information, when you start seeing and reading more information about how this has passed and how, what chances you have of getting it. I'll admit, when I got back from Arizona, Zach, I was afraid in the back of my mind that I had a good chance of having this. Not because I did anything per se wrong, and I'm not saying that you had to do something wrong to get the coronavirus, but just I'm a realistic person. And me being realistic is that I knew from February, 20th or whatever else, hell, you could even go back a month further than that. You go back to January, mid-January, between me going to Jamaica, coming back from that, going to Arizona, leaving Arizona, going to Vegas, coming back to Arizona, going to Arizona, coming back to Cleveland, going back to Arizona from Cleveland. And in the mix of all that, being in Las Vegas for 3 nights, being at baseball games, being around a baseball team, and not just like a major league team during spring training, you're around, it's a lot of people being at games, and then being at airports and having young kids. I'll admit, when I got back to my house, my wife and I both said, hey, now that we're back, we're not leaving for a while because there's no telling what we have or what, we didn't want my parents or her parents to do. And that's been, and I said this, and it's been, to be honest, one of the hardest, weirdest things ever. And I know everybody's going through hard things. My kids are really close to their grandparents, really close. And it sucks that their grandparents come over and drop stuff off in the driveway or come and put something in the garage and drive off. Yeah. Or they're at the bottom of the driveway talking, or we go to the park and we're literally standing 10 feet away from each other, and that's hard for my kids to get. And it's damn near made me cry because I know that they like hugging their grandpas and their grandmas, and I don't blame them. They're a big part of their life. But I did have a concern that I may have it. Like, I feel fine. But like I said, I just was around a lot of people. And now that we're kind of 3 weeks out from that, I'm like, okay. And I guess this goes back to what I said originally. What is going to, and this is a question that people can tweet me about this, because it's a conversation I really want to have. On one hand, and I read something from Scott Van Pelt. He was from The Athletic. I was reading it last night. And he's kind of opposite of what I feel on this. I love crowds at games. I love what it brings. I just don't know. And I'm just asking this. And I mean, you and I, we go to stadiums and we take it for granted. It's our offices, right?
Right.
You know, you go to Brown Stadium with a way different mindset than 5% of the other people that drive this football stadium. Same thing for me at Progressive Field. Some people's sanctuaries, for us, is where we work. So I don't even think twice about it. But I think most of us are going to think twice about it. Maybe not. I don't care if it's in 2020 or 2021 or 2022. When are you going to be completely comfortable to just go to another stadium? Like, I haven't been, and what I was getting at when I first started this, I'm sorry. What I was first getting at is please take care of the local pizza shops and different places like that, because for as long as this is going to go, I think there's going to be we're going to be in a different world with bars and restaurants and things of that nature when this is over. So that was kind of two thoughts at once. I'm sorry. But when will you be comfortable just to go into a stadium and be okay with it? I don't know when, for me.
All right, so let me ask you this. You know, I'm sure you've talked to people. I know you've talked to people from Fox because I've tried to call you when you were on work calls.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've talked to people with the Indians, and like me, you know people throughout sports. I mean, is the vibe that you get that even though contingencies are being discussed, and some of them are out there, some of them aren't, is the overriding theme we just don't know?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the overriding.
That's what I thought. And specifically, I want to stick with baseball for a second. Okay, if we're in a warm weather climate and we're not playing in home stadiums, we can play till Christmas, right? That's fine.
Right.
You know,
right.
Put it on TV every day at 10, 1, 4, and 7, and 10, you know, and they're fine. However, if you're like in a mad scramble to get your 100 games in or whatever, and you think that playing in Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, if it's even feasible, in November, and the team sucks, like, who benefits from that?
Right. Well, then is it even about that, though? Right? Really, it's about we got to get these 100 games in so we can try to get our money from our
right. So that's what I'm saying is, like, you know, you're trying to do it to bring sports to people and to get these guys paid and to allow business to go on. But, like, if you, you know, I guess the White Sox spent money, so maybe that's a bad example. Well, it gets cold as shit in Kansas City, too. So if the Tigers are playing at Kansas City on Black Friday, Trey, who in the fuck is going to that game? Right?
Not many. Right. But, and I think this is the other thing we're learning. On the TV side of things, and I think that's what we're going to have to get used to. I mean, look at us. Like, what have you like? What's the most things that are being talked about on TV? Like, we finally watched the Tiger guy on Netflix, and the Tiger King or whatever else, and that's just crazy, man. I mean, we grinded through it the last 2-3 days, and like, I gotta say, I don't know if you watched it or whatever else. The first 2-3 episodes had us dying laughing, and then it got just dark. Like, it was like the
last. Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have even watched the last 2 episodes. Yes,
right. It gets so dark that you're just like, what have I put myself through? And I even said to myself, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, if basketball was going on or baseball was going on, I may have watched 3 of those episodes. I can't see myself watching 7 of them just because there'd be other things I like doing or watching.
Can I tell you a secret with a dozen or 100 or 1,000 other people listening?
Yeah.
Watching that is
you got a tiger?
Watching that has never made me more want to write my masculine football book than ever before. Swear to God.
Here's the thing, and I agree with you on that. That's a good call. Here's the thing I don't get. How are these people so comfortable turning their backs on these big-ass 900-pound cats and, like, walking around in cages with them? I don't get it. I don't let the little the chow wow, whatever dog, like, I don't turn my back on little dogs in my neighborhood. Like, how do they do that? Like, and I'm not an animal person. There's so many questions I have. It's wow.
It goes,
but like, so
yeah. I mean, it goes from this wild, surreal, hilarious / sad ride to this like crash, dark landing, right?
Yes.
And yeah, you do come away with a lot of questions. You come away feeling dirty. You come away hopefully counting your blessings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like I said, I wanted to come into this and I wanted to try to entertain and talk without playing doctor. I also am not a detective, but she definitely fed her husband to those fucking tigers.
You think? I mean, just the craziest, just like the plot, like you couldn't have written that story. Like just all of it, just the guys, and like they all got multiple wives and girlfriends, boyfriends, and the guys, like I'm just like, man, like just.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it that way because I was trying to say this the other day as some of us were talking about it. Like sometimes as a professional storyteller, right? Sometimes like I watch things and I find myself like, how would I do this differently, right? And so I was familiar with the story, and even though I obviously had no idea exactly what I was diving into as we did this, I had some idea. Right? So one thing I appreciated is how episode 1 starts with the Rick Kirkham guy. You know, of all this information and all this footage and all these wild, unbelievable rides through different avenues. I just thought they did such a good job of sitting him down and basically he looks at the camera and says, well, where to start? Well, I wondered the same thing. Let's start here. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit, buckle up.
Right. Well, that was the funny thing is, after being like halfway through, we were talking to our neighbors, or we're like, we've one of the things we've started doing is we play cards on our phones with our family and with our neighbors. Play spades. It's amazing, and it takes up a great amount of time at night, and it's been a lot of fun. And Jen randomly was just like, I don't even remember how this damn thing started. And I was just like, oh, you don't remember? I was like, they were looking at exotic snakes, and some guy had some striped tiger or something in the back of a minivan. And she's like, what? And I was like, that's how this all started. Because I'm like you, I'm always like, as a storyteller, as someone that tries to tell a story with a zing, you know, you always in your mind, you're like, how would I tell this story?
Right.
And I got to get that guy credit. It was just like, well, turn the mics on, let him go.
Yeah, and then like just, you know, my TV background, which isn't super extensive, but all these things run together. I mean, the thing that sticks with me, you know, non-outrageous division is Joe is agreeing for him to do the web show, and the guy's just saying, I don't give a fuck about the web show. I'll work all day on it. Just we need to get this other stuff that's going on, right?
Right.
And there's so much of it. And I have questions. Listen, I come out of that with questions as a journalist, as a person, as a viewer, did I really watch that? Did I really allow myself to enjoy parts of that? You know, like, and then
man.
Okay, just in case people haven't watched it yet, you know, whatever. If you want us to do a full Tiger King episode of the podcast, we'll do it. We ain't busy.
We can't. No, yeah. We ain't busy. We might have to. Like, I almost called you like the late night the other night, and I was like, "This is freaking unbelievable." Like, this is how they were living. Like, to me, that's the perfect thing to watch when you're stuck in your house for a month at a time, because ain't none of us, hopefully, knock on wood, are living as bad as those people were living on that farm.
Right.
And that's America. Like, that ain't that far. Like, where they were building the next one, because my sister lives in Fort Worth, and like they don't have gambling in Fort Worth, and you got to drive to Oklahoma.
To WinStar.
And I've been there. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit, no!" I've been in that casino till 5 a.m. I couldn't imagine walking out and the lion walk up to me, because that's what's going to be next. Oh my god! Oh
yeah,
my
man.
god! What
and
character?
you know me, Dre. I am not a sit still person. I am not a watch anything person. And even through this, the other things I've put on Netflix or left on marathons of whatever random channel shows the same thing 10 times in a row, I watch and then I fall asleep. Or I watch and text through the interesting parts. But to this, I was pretty glued. I gotta say.
Locked in. Locked and loaded. But I say to you, in a normal March, normal April.
Oh yeah.
Do you watch all 7 episodes?
I watch every minute of the NIT, every bounce of the NCAA, and I mix in the CBI.
Exactly.
You know?
Right.
Then I decompress for a couple days, and I'm ready to watch the NBA playoffs.
Exactly. And then you'll mix in the first inning of an Indians game and the ninth inning of an Indians game.
Speaking of that, one sports thing before we get out of here. I know why the NFL did it, expanding the playoffs, and it will benefit a certain team or teams, and they made all sorts of money. But like, do people really want 6 games in 2 days?
Well, yes, we do. Right now, we do.
Right. Yes, give me them
all. In 4 or 5 years, I get what you're saying. Do we want to see the Matt Staffords of the world play in a playoff game? And it was the first name that came to my mind.
Well, no, last year it would have been Duck Hodges. They were the team that got left out.
Ooh, that's right. It would have been Duck. It would have been Duck Goose. That wouldn't have been good. I mean, you watch MAC football on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. No offense to it, I love it. Yeah. You just said you'll watch the NIT. You watch I mean, we like the competition, man. I woke up today. I'm going to read a text that I really woke up today. I get what you're saying, but I woke up to a group texting of friends that will remain nameless. Somebody will figure it out, but probably. But one of my friends at 10 o'clock this morning said, I seriously might bet on the NBA 2K League that starts tonight. Got to go do some research. Talk to you guys later. Our other buddy put up a DraftKings thing and says, you've won $10. He goes, I've been doing the free plays on virtual Madden games on DraftKings. I was a big winner yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, these are real people. I know them. They got families and everything.
No, it's we're hard up for some sports, man.
Right.
You know, I know our guy TA has been advocating for just the golfers that already live in Florida that are there to get together and someone put on a tournament. We'll watch it. We'll bet on it. We'll DraftKings it. Well, even if we don't have a dime on it, we'll watch it because we need some live sports, right? And I'm like, go, yes, start tomorrow.
Right.
Go fund me. I'm in.
Right. But does that change how – I think what the NFL is hoping is that you don't have the lose for whomever. The team that starts off 0-4. Don't we always have that record? No team that's gone 0-4, only like 1%,
right.
Whatever.
Right.
They have to be hoping that you get 4 or 5 more teams that don't just say F it, that don't fire the coach, that don't sit the old quarterback, that really go for it.
Hey,
you know what I mean? We've all seen it. If anybody's seen it, we've seen it.
Right. When it turns December, Dre, every year, and people got football fatigue and people got real life things going on, good, bad, and indifferent, what keeps them glued to the NFL? That in the hunt graphic, right?
Right.
Now
Absolutely,
you include another team in there, and that's a lot more audience.
Right.
And that's another. It's 2 more playoff games. It's more teams being involved, and it does mean a ton to those cities. I mean, but it all comes back to this: beer vendors, ticket takers, interns, parking people, restaurants. No game. I mean, these teams and these stadiums are huge parts of our economy, of our everyday lives. And you take away, like you said, I didn't think of it that way. One mental note I made for myself was, okay, when we start talking here, I'm going to say some college sport programs aren't recovering from this if they miss college football. And you said pro teams too, and you are exactly right.
Yeah. And in the NFL, the other thing is this. What else can they make money from? They've got Monday Night Football. Thursday Night Football they made $1 billion off of. Saturdays are for the boys and for college. So you add a playoff game, and you can get a lot of money, and they can, when we're back to normal life, ESPN, ABC wants to be a big player, CBS wants to, somebody's going to give them $1 billion for those 2 more football games, right? Like, it's going to make that Saturday, and traditionally it's going to make that Saturday. You get 3 games now on Wild Card Weekend. Yep. I have said to you, one of my favorite weekends of the year is the first weekend of the playoffs. Well, now I get a doozy. So will it be the best football? Will it be the best playoff football we've ever seen? Probably not. But we probably will get some wild situations, and maybe once every 5 years you get a team like the Steelers that maybe their quarterback's been hurt all year. He comes and let's say, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there.
Hottest team wins.
But just think of right. What if a team comes in at 7-9 or 8-8 and they had some injuries and they get healthy in December, or a guy that we thought wouldn't play the rest of the season suddenly on December 20th is like, I think I can go. Yeah. It gives you another storyline, is what I would say.
All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate your tweets and your sharing and your patronage of our sponsors and everything we talked about. Dre said it. Support your local folks when you can. Guys, like I said, I don't need to lecture you. It's unprecedented times. Scene and Honeymoon and American Fireworks have all been good to us. American Fireworks has had to cut their hours and deal with some things, like most companies have. They have not had to lay anyone off yet. They're still hoping to have a big summer. We appreciate them being with us. We appreciate all you guys being with us. So keep tweeting or emailing whatever your topic ideas. We would love to come on here and just throw out some scenarios. We're concerned about the real world too, and it's one thing after another. Sunday morning, Dre, I meant to tell you this. We went for a drive, dropped some things off, started heading back your way, and couldn't even get through because there was floods a mile from your house. Couldn't even get through State Road.
Yeah.
And it's
right.
It's one thing after another for people.
So
it
really
stay
is.
positive.
It
Find
really
a positive every day, and just
for sure.
Yeah. Stay up.
One day at a time. Yes, sir. Everybody be good. Take care of everyone around you. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Yep.
Go Joe. Is he still in prison?
I believe so. I believe he is in prison. So.
Well, fuck Carol. What was our lady's last name?
Carol Baskins. All right. On that note, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening.